Part 22. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui-Xiang. Chapter 218. So, why are you calling me now? Kinya Kazuma took a deep breath and said calmly. Yuan Zhenxian offset the sound and said, I'm here to ask for help. Have you forgotten what threats you helped me eliminate when deducing the future? Kinya Kazuma was stunned for a moment, and a shuddering feeling spread throughout his body. That guy is here now. Yeah, but I'm temporarily fainted now, so you move quickly and let my good sister take you into Genji to deal with her. After this opportunity, with her ability, it may be a bit difficult for you to find her again. Asaba Kazuma paused seriously for a while, confirming that there was no abnormality in the timbre of Gen Mahara on the other end of the phone, and then said, I'll go over now. I'll contact Mai over there. Suddenly, he thought of something and said belatedly, how did Princess Kaguya faint? Gen Jensen's originally slightly playful voice paused. Tell me, why don't you speak? Gen Zhenxian stayed there dryly for a long time without uttering a word. If you don't say anything, I will mistake you for Princess Kaguya. Cold words came out of Qian Yufuzima's warm lips. Yuan Zhenxian became anxious immediately. Don't. She stammered, I told you, I'm really a genius. Then tell me how you control her. In the future, you will have no power to fight back against her taking over your body. Gen Zhenxian coughed and said dryly. Share the senses together. It was the thoughts and ideas brought back by the shared senses. The feeling was a bit too concentrated, so she fainted. When Yuan Zhenxian said the sentence, his voice was very quiet. Who would have thought such a thing would happen? Who would have thought that the idea of sharing senses would burst out suddenly after returning to her body, and all the feelings she had accumulated before would be input into her mind at once? Without any surprise, she crashed on the spot. Of course, Minamoto Shinjin at least has a body as a protection mechanism. Kaguya's thoughts, which had been hidden in Zijin Jensen's body, were not so good. She was washed away by the violent flow of information on the spot and fainted. Asahi Kazuma, who was already in the car, couldn't laugh or cry. What does this mean? Qian Kazuma quickly arrived at the source of the clan. At the door, he saw Miyamamaya waiting for him. Let's go, we don't have much time. The guard at the door glanced at Asahi Kazuma with curiosity. This was the first time they had seen their eldest lady bring someone back. This is more or less beyond their knowledge. After all, in their memories, Amamaya Mai was the kind of upper-class person who didn't like to communicate with strangers. A young man like Asaba Kazuma, who looked impressive at first glance but could more or less not come from a wealthy family, was actually able to be greeted by Amamaya Mai. Yuan Zhenxian is already waiting for you, let's go faster. The guard at the door stiffened. Who is this man? He can actually have the eldest Lady Genji greet him at the door and the second Lady Genji waiting in the room. No one in the Genji group knows that the second Miss Genji often takes a break early due to health problems. At this point in time, the second lady should have fallen asleep successfully with the help of the maid. However, now because of the arrival of this man, Minamoto no Shinzen did not choose to go to bed early, but couldn't wait to let Amamaya Mai come out to greet him. Just kidding, it was really a lot of fun. As for Qian Kazuma's side, they have no intention of paying attention to other people's gossip. The sense of crisis that Princess Kaguya gave them was too great. At least at this moment, Asaba Kazuma, Amamaya Mai and Genma reached a consensus, that is, taking care of Kaguya first. As for how they will end the matter in the future, they can wait until they deal with Princess Kaguya before discussing it. It turns out they were right. Not long after Asahi Kazuma came to Genmajan's room, he decisively activated his adjustment talent and put his consciousness into Genmajan's body. This time, they captured Kaguya's consciousness faster than expected. Perhaps Kagaya was knocked unconscious during the ceremony and was unable to recover enough to take control of Minamoto's body. When Asaba Kazuma pulled out Kagaya's consciousness, that consciousness was still dazed. I didn't understand what was going on at all. Amamiya my Amamiya, 6. Asahi Kazuma's face was cold and he directly imprisoned the consciousness of this so-called goddess who had caused many tragedies deep in his body. He will handle Kagaya properly according to the operation in the love simulation. Only this time, before Asaba Kazuma had time to leave Genji, someone blocked the door. That's right, the people blocking the door were none other than Minamoto Zayashi and his wife Minamoto Mayako. It's just that this time they met, the expressions between the two parties were a little awkward. This was the first time for Minamoto Zai to see Asaba Kazuma. He didn't even know the boy's name. Asahi Kazuma was even more powerful. He didn't think too much when he rushed here just now, he was just thinking about how to deal with Kagaya. No idea. This time, before I could leave the Minamoto clan, I was blocked by Minamoto Zayashi and Minamoto Mayako in Minamoto's bedroom. One thing to say. Although Asaba Kazuma met Minamoto Zayashi more than once in the love simulation, this was the first time she met Minamoto Zayashi's current wife, Minamoto Mayako. It's just that the expression on Minamoto Mayako's face seems a little ugly now. In the middle of the night, Amamiya took a man and ran directly to her daughter's bedroom. As a mother, she was damned if she could have such a good face. As for Amamiya, her face looked innocent now, as if what happened now had nothing to do with her, and she looked at Minamoto Genzuru with a slightly strange look. After all, Minamoto Zayashi can easily handle Minamoto Mayako, so Minamoto Shinzuru needs to convince him personally. Her relationship with Mayako Minamoto is definitely not a good one. Genzen Sien also saw this extremely embarrassing scene. In fact, the most embarrassing person right now is actually her. She hurriedly called Asaba Kazuma and Amamiya to come over for help. On the one hand, it was necessary to deal with the scourge of Kagaya. On the other hand, Kagaya fainted. Could it be that Minamoto Shinzuru is protected by her body and won't be affected in any way? How strange. Now that no one can be seen under her sheets, she is trying to find ways to keep Amamiya here to help her deal with the trouble. If she really made Amamiya angry, would she just walk away if she knew it? There were some things that were innocuous for her friends and brothers and sisters to know, but if her parents knew about them, she would want to escape the earth at the speed of light. So she quickly deleted the bright smile on her face and said seriously to Mayako Minamoto, "Mom, why are you here?" Mayako Minamoto glanced at Minamoto Shinjin angrily, "I'm afraid that if I don't come over, some terrible news will come out from Genji the next day." Obviously, what she said is likely to be a rumor about Minamoto. Genzen Sien said calmly, "It doesn't matter what news they want to spread, they are just a group of defeated generals." As he said this, Minamoto Shinjin blinked and said, "Not to mention, Mom, you should congratulate me." Congratulations. What is there to congratulate? Mayako Minamoto's expression began to look horrified, and she was a little worried that Minamoto Mizuru would directly say something saucy to her like, "Congratulations, you're going to be a grandma soon." Then she heard her precious daughter say, "I should indeed be congratulated. Because of the help of my sister and Asaba Kazuma, I really have a chance to stand up again." "How many are you pregnant with, et?" Mayako Minamoto's expression stiffened. Even Yuenzai's expression began to change. "Are you feeling better?" Mayako Minamoto could not remain calm after hearing this. She immediately stepped forward to get closer to Minamoto and lifted her quilt to take a look. Yuan Zhengxian's body tensed up instantly, and he almost screamed. At this moment, Amamiya stepped forward and hugged the overly excited Minamoto Mayako. "Aunt Mayako, calm down, the treatment on Kazuma's side is still going on. This treatment is based on the void gene talent, you should understand." The void gene talent has not yet been fully explored, and it is still full of mysteries. If you interrupt the treatment, it may be very troublesome. After Minamoto Mayako heard Amamiyamai's rhetoric, although Minamoto Mayako was still dubious, she still did not step forward to stop it. After all, she knew very well what a magical power the void gene was. For a long time, she had always regarded the void gene as a superpower. It wasn't until she learned more about the void gene that she was finally able to look at this unscientific power with a more normal attitude. In the end, with Minamoto Shinzen's explanation and Amamiyamai's pandering, Minamoto Zayashi and Minamoto Mayako finally left with some doubts. Kinya Kazuma glanced at the two of them, sighed and said, "Okay, this is the end of the matter for the time being. You two will find a way to deal with it on your own. I will leave first." Amamiyamai and Genma did not stop Asaba Kazuma. After all, there are probably a lot of things that need to be discussed between these two sisters. The other side. When Asaba Kazuma left Minamoto's bedroom, he saw Minamoto Zayashi and Minamoto Mayako wandering in the corridor outside with uneasy expressions on their faces. Kinya Kazuma sighed. Both Minamoto Hideyori and the Hatoyama family are typical old foxes and their fox dens. In this situation, Genji created a Genzayashi who was less selfish and still full of humanity. The Hatoyama family has a Mayako Hatoyama who is very likely to be a lover. This situation is still quite rare. Can she really be able to stand up? Yuenzai said with a somewhat hoarse voice. Kinya Kazuma took another look at Yuenzai and said calmly. After the final treatment from Amamiyamai, actually helping to clean up the chaotic scene, most of the obstacles that prevented her from standing up disappeared. You can safely arrange for her to undergo rehabilitation from now on. Mai has helped a lot in this process. I am willing to come here this time because of her relationship. Asahi Kazuma didn't lie. Compared to Gen, he has a closer relationship with Amamiyamai. Even to a certain extent, it can be said that he was willing to help Minamoto Shinzuru because he was concerned about the feelings of Amamiyamai. Amamiyamai's style is somewhat incompatible with Genji. Miss Genji, who dared to love and hate, said she was fierce, but in fact she always remembered Genzai's love for raising her as his own daughter. Whether this love is love for Wajiwo, or simply treating her as a real daughter after getting along for a long time, I am afraid she will never be able to change this love in her life. Therefore, Asaba Kazuma will also show more kindness to Minamoto Zayashi and Minamoto Mayako. After all, Asaba Kazuma knew without any investigation that the core reason why Amamiyamai was able to steadily compete with Minamoto Mizurui over the years was because of Minamoto Zayashi's non-interference. If it was just to ensure that the blood inheritance was still in the Genji clan, Minamoto Zayashi had every reason to directly crush Amamiyamai's fighting spirit. After all, from Amamiyamai's perspective, there was no reason for her to give up the opportunity to inherit the Genji family at the risk of death. You can put yourself in Genji's perspective. The family blood does not flow through Amamiyamai. Even the last name was ridiculously changed back to Mai Amamiya. If this makes Amamiyamai become the head of the family, then are they Genji? Or Amamiya? Therefore, even if Amamiyamai is eliminated from competing for the head of the family without any reason, it is normal. Being able to continue fighting until now, Minamoto Zai really attaches great importance to Amamiyamai. Seeing Asaba Kazuma giving such a clear answer, the couple breathed a sigh of relief. The fact that Genzan can no longer stand up because of the Shenzi plan has always been a heartache between the two. This couple was incompatible from the beginning of their marriage. After Minamoto Mayako left Minamoto Shinzuru, the relationship between the two parties turned and heated up. Then they joined forces after Minamoto Shinzuru was famously injured due to the Shenzi project. After Minamoto Zayashi successfully ascended to the position of head of the family, the two became entangled again because of Minamoto Shinzen's incident. After such a long period of time, I finally felt relieved after hearing that my daughter could really stand up again. Even Mayako Minamoto, who was so angry just now, changed her eyes when she saw Asaba Kazuma as the great benefactor who helped her daughter regain the possibility of standing up. Taking a closer look, the young man Amamiya called over looked indeed very pleasing to the eye. The reason why I was so angry in the room just now must be because I heard that my daughter had brought a man into her bedroom and she became anxious. That's right, it definitely couldn't be because she didn't see Asaba Kazuma's face at that time. Asahi Kazuma didn't stay long and left in a hurry after chatting with the parents for a few words. He wants to go back and find out what changes have taken place in Kyonyulu, Love is War 2077. This is his #1 golden finger. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love. Author, Fei Se Hui-Xiang. Chapter 219. Chapter 219. Back to the simulation space. The expression on Asaba Kazuma's face has become extremely serious. He did not directly engage in the love simulation, but looked at the game board. Normally he rarely opens the game panel. Because except for the achievement store that is refreshed after each successful simulation, there is no update content at all. So later on, unless I needed to redeem rewards from the achievement store, I would never click on the game panel. Only this time, after he clicked on the game panel, he was dumbfounded. Due to the unknown adjustment talent, the data connection to the Kyonyulu server failed, and the alternative option of extracting specific characters to generate simulated girlfriends was affected. The memory shielding function fails. Kyonyulu server is reconstructed and starts to connect to the root database. The prototype of the root database was retrieved. Verification completed. It was confirmed that the 0.5 generation root database gene crown was retrieved, and the server started to contact. The underlying logic is restarted, the previous system framework is re-extracted, and all permissions are recalibrated while maintaining the basic game framework from crashing. Game developer detected, Asaba Kazuma. Game maintainer detected, Shiina Yuan. Game generation designers detected, Asaba Kazuma, Ishihara Rina, Shiina Yuan, Amamiya Mai, Minamoto Mizuru. Gene code designer detected, Lily Garcia. Leave a message in the background with the genetic code designer's permission. Chien Kazuma, if you dare to harass me in advance and drag me to play house with you, you will be dead, /. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui-Xiang. Chapter 220. Chapter 220. Asahi Kazuma looked at the message that popped up in the love simulation and didn't know what to say for a moment. Yuan Zhenzhen is really a strange person. She has been struggling with this kind of thing for such a long time. But Chien Kazuma felt that it was impossible for him to agree. It was with great difficulty that the triangular relationship between the three women was put into a stable structure. This was the result of the proud Miss Amamiya Mai's initiative to give in. If Minamoto Shinzuru also joins in, wouldn't it become a quadrilateral? The structure is unstable. So I'm sorry, Minamoto, I'm afraid there aren't that many possibilities between us. He continues to devote his attention to dating simulations. With the arrival of the spring of the next year, Kenya Group launched an unprecedented and massive publicity at the beginning of the year. Planned event conferences for Mobile Suit Gundam 00, Jockey Girl, Strong Wind, Swinging Camping, Love Live, Idol Master, Saga Idol is Legend /. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui-Xiang. Chapter 221. Asaba Kazuma slowly exited the simulation scene. When he came back to his senses, what he saw was a dim white light in the simulation space. The white light flickered, as if there was insufficient energy. But Asaba Kazuma had no time to think about this matter. he never expected that Yuan Zhenxian could do so well. What is substitute love? Unilaterally accumulate progress bars on several of your girlfriends, and then conquer them yourself, right? What substitute? You can't afford it, right? What made Qian Yufengjian even more tearful was that this wave even achieved achievements. Achievement this round, Doll's Dream. Love score, 30 points, data deleted, / administrator rights being modified, 99 points. Evaluation, a doll that needs help from others to walk had a human dream. One day in the dream, it borrowed the memories of others and created an illusory love, but this was the doll's choice and her salvation. Settlement, you gain a small amount of learning experience and work experience, you absorb the essence of Yuan Zhenxian, and gain fraud, expression management, advanced aesthetic Yuan Zhenxian, and intermediate investment and financial management skills. Woohoo, it's over. The simulation is over. Not only did Minamoto's thoughts escape into reality, allowing Minamoto to absorb part of her memory, but now she has also reversed the simulation. There is no doubt that Yuan Zhenxian may have begun to absorb the memories in the simulation at this time. Asaba Kazuma took a deep breath and began to consider whether he should run away. Where are you going? Just take Rina and Uman out of the country, and then ask Amamayamai to help him pull the Genma string. This woman is really too dangerous. I'm so greedy for my own body that I'm going to directly attack myself. Well, actually the details are not like that at all. Asaba Kazuma sighed, exited the simulation space, and began to think about what to do next. Just when he was about to log out, he suddenly discovered that a @1 symbol appeared on the mailbox that had never received a message since opening the system panel. His eyes looked over subconsciously. Click on the email and take a look. To me 2000 years ago. Asaba Kazuma? What attack of the dwarves? I was right about this style of painting. Asahi Kazuma clicked on it without hesitation. Then he discovered that there was a prop left for him by an unknown person. Well, it was probably really him, through the mailbox. When I clicked on the prop, I saw that the prop was called a memory. After thinking for a moment, he chose to accept the memory. As the memory unfolds, Qian Yufengjian saw a field of silent stars. A person who looked like his adult form stood on a barren land. Judging from the surrounding starry sky, this area is obviously not the Earth. This is the Human Alliance 4 Galaxy Exploration Mission. It has been basically confirmed that there are signs of the unknown civilization that Kagaya observed in this star field. Please reply when you receive it. The exploration team's logistics department has been informed. Please check the surrounding traces to confirm the existence of unknown civilization. A familiar voice came from the headset. It seems, Shianouman? Just when the figure in the memory was about to say something else, a new female voice suddenly came from the headset. This is Starship International Asian Feather. Abnormal vibration waves have been detected from the surface of the satellite. Please be careful of the danger. The exploration team received it. This voice is, Amamayamai. Kazima, the impact is coming. This time the voice came from the side, and Asahi Kazuma could hear it without turning around. It was Rina Ishihara's voice. Just when Kinyo Kazuma had not come back to his senses after absorbing the memory, there was a clear vibration on the ground surface, and the earth was cracking. The starship called the exploration team. Something emerged from the cracks in the surface. Is this the voice of Minamoto Mizura? Please take precautions and keep your oxygen bottles safe. Holy shit, why is Lily even here? Suddenly, he noticed that a small sun seemed to be rising on the surface of the earth. The scorching light of the small sun shone on the surrounding surface, and the cold starry sky seemed to begin to become warmer. When the starry sky returned to silence again, Kinyo Kazuma saw an incredible scene in the starry sky. A figure that covers the sky and the sun is standing quietly in space. It was an existence with human appearance, but obviously not human. After all, it is impossible for a normal human to have a heart-shaped tail unless a tail is stuffed behind his back. That figure seemed to be something similar to a virtual projection. In the space where sound should not be transmitted, everyone heard the figure's murmur. The figure said, "A world almost free of demons. Hey, their genes are interesting. Can you obtain special powers based on your genetic talents? I wonder if there will be some interesting developments when they enter the endless star realm in the future and liberate the essence of their genes." There was an interesting expression on his face, and he turned his fingers slightly, and a twisted and expanded light ball appeared. He lightly patted his palm, and the light ball continued to fly towards the distance at a speed that ordinary people could not imagine. After crossing the stars and the sea, he finally came to a planet that Jian Yufengjian was extremely familiar with. The ball of light kept going downwards and finally disappeared on the planet. The voice said interestingly, "This can be regarded as leaving a seed for them. A new planet that has not yet entered the sea of stars. In these long years, I have seen many of them, just like the stars. However, this planet is quite interesting, it always reminds me of the past. The power of time and space has been left to you. Maybe in the years to come, a different flower will bloom on your planet. This is the Ibel Interstellar Federation. I am the leader of the Federation, Kyle. Lucky people, lucky civilization, if you can really use the power of time and space. Then, let me look forward to it. In the depths of the endless starry sky, we may meet again." His eyes were slightly tilted, looking towards the more distant starry sky, as if there were many unknown civilizations in that starry sky, waiting for him to explore and understand. So the figure said, "Keep flying, fly to the endless star realm." The figure in the starry sky slowly disappeared. The third-person memory absorbed by Isaba Kazuma has also come to an end. When he came back to his senses, he had exited the simulation space at some point. Suddenly, Asahi Kazuma seemed to understand the origin of his golden finger in Kyunulu, Love is War 2077 that far exceeded the ordinary adjustment talent. Is it really what he guessed? Where is the Kyunulu, Love is War 2077, but it is the result of unprecedented adjustment of talent, the result of transformation after encountering the energy of time and space. It's just that this talent is finally displayed in the form of a game. This made him feel lost, and his eyes lit up with fire. Is there other life beyond the starry sky? If so, that's a very tempting thing indeed. He also probably understood why Princess Kaguya was so crazy about this matter. But he would never take Kaguya's approach to reach the stars. Just as he was immersed in this memory, a call suddenly came to his mobile phone, interrupting his train of thought. It's Minamoto Shinstring. He hesitated for a moment and finally answered the phone. However, a voice that sounded exactly like Shianakane came from the other end of the phone. "Kazuma, I miss you." Asahi Kazuma's face turned dark instantly. "Don't make trouble, if you do this again I will hang up the phone." Yuan Zhenxian on the other end of the phone immediately switched back to his original voice and said helplessly. "You don't have to be like this, didn't I just imitate it?" "I don't like this behavior," Jian Yufengma said calmly. Yuan Zhenxian was silent for a moment and said in a low voice, "Okay, I won't do this next time. No quarrels, no harsh words." It's just that the voice sounded a little aggrieved. Kinyu Kazuma sighed, "Why bother, there is no need to do this." Zhen Xian said slowly, "If it were before, I might be very angry, after all, I don't like to be played with. But it's okay now. After all, I can get the chance to stand up again, which is a great joy for me. Just because of this, I can't control my liking for you." Kinyu Kazuma scratched his head. So mysterious. However, he still emphasized, "Now Rina, Kian, and Mai, it is a triangular stable structure. I really don't want to create any more unstable factors." Yuan Zhenxian smiled and said, "Don't worry, I won't embarrass you." Asaba Kazuma replied, it would be really great if that's the case. Minamoto's story was soon known to Ishihara Rina and Shiina Kane. This is what Asahi Kazuma took the initiative to tell them. Shiina Uman seemed a little annoyed, and glanced at Asahi Kazuma speechlessly. Asahi Kazuma looked a little embarrassed. This is really not his problem. Who would have thought that Yuan Zhenxian would directly do such a thing? Originally, a simulation was specially conducted to prevent her from doing so. Who could have imagined that the final result would be like this? But the only thing that makes Asahi Kazuma happy is that Genzan used his adjustment talent to forcefully break the barrier of the love simulation, directly allowing the three women to obtain the memories of the love simulation. It is precisely because of the influence of this memory that there was no Shura field between the lovers of Asahi Kazuma. Of course, the most important thing is that Asahi Kazuma did not promote the progress of the relationship between himself and Genma. The three women who have this simulated memory know this. Even Amamiyamai felt guilty. After all, he was the culprit who caused Minamoto to clear the level. But who would have thought that in this world, which is so vast and full of wonders, he would bump into Genzan who pulled the progress bar for himself. Because of this incident, although Shiina Kane did not lose his temper, he was still a little annoyed and squeezed Asahi Kazuma for a week. This Jokin Yufengjian is really a drunken dream, but life is worse than death. But it was Rina who made Asahi Kazuma feel the most distressed. The poor sister seemed to think that the reason for this situation was that she didn't work hard enough and failed to give Asahi Kazuma a good enough experience. So much so that she spent several days hiding in a corner, feeling a little depressed. Fortunately, not long after, Amamiyamai accidentally exposed the true identity of her little girl during a conversation among everyone. Ahem. Let's use this as a metaphor. 1 Rina equal 1.5 Hien equal 5 small dishes. Well, out of the secret protection of his best friend, Asahi Kazuma did not explain to others who Zyobakei was. Anyway, I understand everything. After that time, Rina suddenly became excited. How to say? Many things come out of comparison after all. The situation on Amamiyamai's side is more complicated. She never expected that the bastard Minamoto Shinzen would directly obtain the memory of deducing the future, which made her very angry. It's ruined. Give up. I don't want to stay in this garbage reality game for a second. In the end, Minamoto Shinzuru stood up and made an unspeakable scumbag speech. It doesn't matter, they are all good sisters. There are only 4 of us in total. Each of us can occupy one day. Every day can be pure love. The remaining 3 days can be an imperfect. Before she finished speaking, Amamiyamai immediately carried Genma out of the door. You guys wait a minute, I'll discipline this useless sister. So a few hours later, when Minamoto Shinzuru came back, he resumed the well-behaved look he pretended to be in front of adults. Ishihara Rina was a little worried that she had been beaten stupid. Shiina Kane looked at the farce with a smile. Amamiyamai fumbled with her fists, thinking about what to do next. Minamoto General. Amamiyamai has quietly arrived at Asahi Kazuma's side. Kinyo Kazuma frowned, what are you doing? Yuan Zhenxian said with a smile, I want to ask the big boss to do me a favor. No help. Asahi Kazuma refused without hesitation. This woman is definitely trying to cause trouble again. You really don't want to help? If you do, the dowry will come from the Genji group. Anyway, you've already conquered half of it. Wouldn't it be better to give the remaining half to the conqueror? If you say that, then I'm even less likely to help. Kinyo Kazuma chose to refuse again. Even if I just want to borrow your company's IP, wouldn't it be okay to become a voice actor? The corners of Asahi Kazuma's mouth twitched slightly. Are you mentally ill? A young lady wants to be a voice actor? Are you fooled by the trappings of people in the voice actor industry? Yuan Zhenxian shook his head and said, that's not the case, I just finally stood up and wanted to experience more things that I find interesting. But I am a member of Genji after all. There are many things that are impossible to do directly. It's like I want to try singing now, but it's definitely impossible for me to get into the entertainment industry. So, wouldn't it be okay to become a voice actor and join in the fun of the music show you are planning to make? The corner of Asahi Kazuma's mouth twitched slightly. Impossible, absolutely impossible. The voice actors screened by the music show are all our company's future idol candidates, so don't even think about it. I can add money. It must be impossible. Don't you want the company to have enough liquidity now to accelerate the development of your company? I can support you with my best sister, just like in the future. At this moment, Kinya Kazuma's heart was a little shaken. She gave a little too much. Street Diary. Regarding the origin of Goldfinger, I have actually mentioned it a long time ago, but in the last book What to Do If You Are Too Popular with Players, in the finale, when Kyle was traveling in the Star Realm, he encountered entering a genetic civilization with extremely high potential. Then Kyle spread some kind of seed into that world, and that's how Love is War 2077 will be born. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Huixiang. Chapter 222. Everything seems to have changed. This year, Princess Kaguya was roasted into charcoal by the incinerator, and Minamoto Shinjin expressed her admiration for this. This year, Asaba Kazuma couldn't resist the temptation, and finally let Gen Zenzuru become a VTuber, a new voice actor. With the financial support of Amama Yamai and Genmagen, the animation studio, which was already developing very fast, ushered in reorganization ahead of schedule. Don't ask, just ask, and the Genji group will help. As for the reaction from UNZI, of course there was no response. What happened to my daughter who finally stood up and helped a bunch of benefactors company? Therefore, he simply ignored the fact that Amama Yamai and Genma strongly assisted Asaba Kazuma. Poor Zaigen, he has no idea what his daughter wants to do. All in all, because Minamoto Shinzuru gave too much, Asaba Kazuma finally gave in. This year, Animation Studios' Love Live project welcomed a special newcomer, Minamoto Mizuragai, who served as the CV of Nishiki no Maki in the anime. That year, Love Live ushered in a wave of popularity. Under the careful selection of Asaba Kazuma, the planned real-life idol team was extremely successful that year, and even made it to the Tokyo Dome. However, when the real-life idol group came out, many people quickly discovered that the CV of Nishiki no Maki, who was widely harvested among anime fans and was known as Cash Princess, did not join the real-life group. All of a sudden, all kinds of conspiracy theories popped up. Some people say that Nishiki no Maki's CV is not good looking and only her voice is acceptable, so she is not allowed to debut. Some people say that it's just the opposite. It's because Maki Nishikino's CV is so beautiful that she was hidden by the Golden House at the animation studio. Then someone discovered the account registered by Nishiki no Maki CV on Little Bluebird and liked this comment. Fortunately, CV himself later explained on the post that it was not convenient to go on stage directly due to family reasons. Some people began to doubt Minamoto's identity, but someone wanted to open the box through the animation studio, but Asaba Kazuma killed him before they even started. Time passed like this little by little. In reality, in the second year after Kaguya's death, Asaba Kazuma, with the cooperation of Rina, Yuin, and Mai, successfully completed the organization of his subordinate resources and officially began to form an entertainment group. In the same year, with the cooperation of Amama Yamai and Genmagen, Asaba Kazuma successfully made a wave of gold coins from Minamoto Hidenori, the old Bideon. After making full use of the remaining value of the old thing, several people directly sent Minamoto Hidenori to prison. In the third year after Princess Kaguya's death, there were no surprises. With the rich results shown in the past few years, Animation Studio officially reached its peak in the field of SLG games and animation. Also in this year, Asaba Kazuma and Ishihara Rina got engaged. Asahi Kazuma did not invite anyone to the engagement banquet. He only invited his parents and a few familiar people from this life to the engagement banquet. Yasuki Asaba and Keiko Asaba are very satisfied with Rina Ishihara, but Yasuki Asaba seems to be a little regretful that Asahi Kazuma missed Shiina Yuine. Asahi Keiko asked Asahi Kazuma to get married as soon as possible. Asahi Kazuma said obediently, "We have to wait a little longer." In the 4th year after Princess Kagaya's death, Asaba Group established Asaba Comics, and Asaba Kazuma began to extend its hands to the field of comics. At the same time, Asaba Group is working together in light novels, music, movies, and other fields, and has begun to seize the market with unstoppable momentum. Also in this year, Asaba Kazuma and Shiina Kane got engaged. At the engagement party, the Shiina couple's expressions were a little subtle, but the ones with even more subtle expressions were Asaba Kazuma's parents. They had just attended the engagement party last year and couldn't figure out what was going on. Could it be that their son, who used to seem innocent and kind, had now become a spendthrift? The 5th year after Kagaya's death. The battle for the head of the family between Amama Yamai and Minamoto Genshin came to an end, and this time Minamoto Genshin still won the final victory. Amama Yamai took nearly half of the further developed Genji's property and defected directly to you. Kinya Group has entered an unprecedented period of rapid development. 6 years after Kagaya's death, Asaya Group has further expanded, and many high-quality games from its past life have been released. The fields of animation and comics are blooming, and the music circle is also expanding crazily, which can almost be said to be suffocating many of its peers. A considerable number of animation companies were directly under this suffocating pressure and were unable to successfully produce qualified works, so that they were eventually merged into the Asaba Group in the form of studios. In the music circle, Kinya Group has also successfully launched a group of top singers with both fame and strength. Even in the film industry, Asaba Kazuma has successfully opened up relevant links and successfully achieved impressive results. At the end of the same year, Shueisha raised the flag of surrender because it could not withstand the pressure from Asaba Group. Asaba Kazuma completed the merger of the company at a relatively suitable price. This year, Asaba Taishu and Asabane Keiko kept urging Asabane Kazuma and Shiina Yuine to get married. Qian Yufeng Jian remained silent and turned around to invite them to the 3rd engagement party. Yasuki Asaba/Keiko Asaba? The confused young couple saw the equally angry Minamoto Zai at Asaba Kazuma's engagement party. Not long after, you, Rina, Yuine, and Mai held a wedding on a private island you purchased. At the wedding, everyone looked at the scene of 1 groom and 3 brides, and their heads felt extremely confused. But looking at the happy smiles of the 3 brides, they still said nothing. Lily Garcia, who only eats melons and watches movies, only feels that the world is huge and full of wonders. Yuan Zhenxian smiled peacefully, but there was a hint of sadness in the corners of his eyes. Also in the year of their marriage, Asaya Kazuma took her 3 daughters on a honeymoon. Something funny happened. Wherever he went, he would see Minamoto Shinjin on vacation. After visiting several tourist attractions in a row, Asaya Kazuma finally couldn't bear it anymore and found Lily Garcia, who has now been promoted to the head of the cultural and creative sector. Lily, have you ever seen me treat you badly in all these years? Of course not. Then as the boss of the company, I have an important task that I need to entrust you to solve. Will you go? Of course I won't go. Don't you want to take a vacation in the next month? Kinha Kazuma, is this how you test the company's leaders? Half a month of paid leave? There's no way I would do this just for a vacation. 1 month of paid leave. I have to do this thing of being a dog slave. Lily Garcia obeyed Asaba Kazuma's order and decisively went to help Asaba Kazuma hold Minamoto Shinzuru in check. It just so happened that Lily had some business dealings with Minamoto, and Asahi Kazuma felt that she was the best person to hold Minamoto back. Then, when the four of Asahi Kazuma arrived at the next tourist location, Asahi Kazuma's face turned dark. "Hi boss, long time no see," Lily Garcia said with a sneer. "Long time no see, you big-headed ghost." Asaba Kazuma looked at Jen Zhenxian, who was standing nearby and slowly drinking milk tea, and said helplessly, "How did you convince the slacker?" Jen Zhenxian said with a smile, "I tried my best to find a novel she wrote before, and then read a paragraph in front of her. Do you want me to read it to you?" "Wait. Wait. Don't open my box, I don't want the society to die." Lily let out a wail. "Why? Why did she bother writing such nonsense back then? If not, why would she still be experiencing the tragedy of social death in her youth?" Ishi Hararina couldn't stand it anymore. Seeing that her friend was about to cry, she could only gently pull the corner of Kinha Kazuma's clothes. Kinha Kazuma was helpless and looked at the two men fiercely. "I don't blame you for not stopping her. It's because the enemy is too cunning. But you must keep an eye on her and don't let her interfere with our honeymoon." Lily nodded sadly, her little eyes rolled around, and she didn't know what bad idea she was thinking. A wedding for 4 people turned into a honeymoon for 4 people and a trip for 2 people. Kinha Kazuma was speechless. People who don't know may think that he is Futaro Yosuji, who is the quintile, forcibly turning the wedding of 2 people into a honeymoon for 6 people. He didn't want to talk. This weird wedding and trip full of comedy finally ended smoothly. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, 5 years have passed. "Ah, be careful." Jen Zhenxian stretched out his hand to support a tiny little girl. "Xiao Xia, don't run so fast. What if you fall and get hurt?" Asaba Xiaoxia fell into the arms of Jen Zhenxian. It took her a long time to come back to her senses, raised her head and whispered, "Aunt Zhenxian, are you coming to see Dad again today?" "Well, there are some things in the company that I need to ask his opinion on." Akatsuki Asaba, the daughter of Asaba Kazuma and Ishi Hararina, is just 4 years old this year. Unlike Ishi Hararina, who has a timid personality, Asaba Akatsuki has a lively personality, and is more inclined to the quirky Shiina woman's personality, so that sometimes, Ishi Hararina will mumble about how she was in the delivery room before. "It's not that I held it wrong." "Xiao, Xioxia, slow down." There was a gasping sound, and another little girl stumbled out. A pair of white hands directly picked up the little girl. "Rulan, what are you two doing?" Amamayamai picked up her daughter. Asaba Ruran, the daughter of Asaba Kazuma and Amamayamai. After being picked up by Amamayamai, Rulan Asaba lowered her head and said timidly, "Mom, I'm playing hide and seek with Sister Xioxia." Amamayamai rubbed Asaba Rulan's face, looked at Genma and said, "Long time no see. It's rare that I haven't been harassed by you in the past 6 months. I've been very comfortable." Yuan Zhenxian rubbed his sore shoulders and whispered, "Who could have imagined that the world would change so fast during this period? After the adjuster regulations became popular, the whole world would be on the fast track. He must be very busy during this period. After all, his tasks are more important than mine." Minamoto Shinjin gently lifted the ends of her hair. 10 years have passed since that memorable time. Over the years, Asaba Kazuma's ability to adjust genes to deduce the future and portray reality was really developed after the love simulation was locked. As the owner of space-time energy, Asaba Kazuma has used this ability to overcome technical difficulties in recent years. Shiina Yuan, as the main force in overcoming difficulties like Asaba Kazuma, has been in Asaba Kazuma's future deductions over the years, accompanying Asaba Kazuma to continuously iterate related technologies. Mai's mom, Mizura's aunt, and Rina's mom have already prepared the food. She asked you to come in for dinner. An expressionless little Lolita with white fur and red eyes, holding a stuffed rabbit in her arms, stood at the door and said, Genzen Xian's eyes lit up, and he rushed forward, picked up the little loli, and ravaged her fiercely. Xiao Mashiro, have you missed your auntie Zhenxian in the past 6 months? Asaba Mashiro, the daughter of Asaba Kazuma and Shiana Kane. I don't know if it's because Asaba Kazuma and Shiana Yuan have been rushing forward in the past few years. When everyone came to their senses, they found that Asaba Mashiro had already lived like a little adult. He always likes to put on a serious expression every day, but for a child, such a serious look is just a little bit indescribably cute. Just like Tsundere needs to match A, study committee needs to match eyes, JK needs to match black stockings yin, they always give people an inexplicable sense of joy. Minamoto's favorite thing is to bully poor Asaba Mashiro, but that's not true. After Minamoto posted it, Asaba Mashiro started to push the face Minamoto was rubbing against with a dissatisfied look on her face. Aunt Zhenxian, you are already an adult. Can you show a little adult attitude? Minamoto, no matter what, he absorbed enough Mashiro energy from Asaba Mashiro, and then he smiled and held the helpless Asaba Mashiro in his arms and said, "There is no way. No one wants your Aunt Zhenxian. Girls can only mature after they get married. Unfortunately, there is someone who doesn't want me now." Asaba Mashiro rolled her eyes and said, "Auntie Mashiro, you are just greedy for daddy's body." Yuan Zhenxian said without shame, "Yes, I'm so greedy. It's a pity that someone is pretending to be dead every day now." "Who are you talking about? Who are you talking about? Who is pretending to be dead?" Kinha Kazuma in the room stopped pretending to be dead and walked out wearing a kitchen suit. With a soft smile on her face, Ishii Hararina followed Asahi Kazuma. Genzen Xian's eyes lit up and he said, "Where's senior sister Hien?" "I'm behind you, Jean, I have to cut the fruit I just bought." "Okay, how about I help you cut it together?" Yuan Zhenxian said with a smile, looking at the door that was not closed. Sure enough, soon another person walked in outside the gate. It was a girl wearing a peaked cap and her outfit looked quite fashionable. I just eat and drink, why are you looking at me like that?" Lily, who was holding a large capacity fruit drink in each hand, shrank her neck. What no one noticed was that the little Asahizioxia dug out a small green bottle from the medicine box with a curious look on her face. "Huh? Don't mom and dad never get sick? Why are there still weird medicines in the medicine box?" Mashiro suddenly patted Zioxia. "Zioxia, it's time to eat." Chienu Zioxia was startled. She accidentally dropped the medicine bottle in her hand on the dining table, and half of the plate of fried eggs and leeks was spilled. Zioxia looked around and found that her parents were not looking at her, so she secretly threw the medicine bottle into the trash can and prepared to take the dishes away. Mashiro on the side glanced at the bottle and whispered, "There's no need to throw it away. That medicine bottle is used by parents at night. It seems to be that it can enhance the fun between husband and wife. It will be fine if we don't eat that dish later." Chien Yurulan on the side said timidly, "But it's not just mom and dad who are here for dinner today, Aunt Zhenxian is also here, and Aunt Lily, the lazy cat, is also here." Asaba Mashiro muttered, "What does it matter? Auntie Mizuru is probably looking forward to it even more. But where is Aunt Lily? I think that woman is not interested in my father and can't arouse any interest. This medicine is useless, right?" Asaba Mashiro spoke, her words became quieter and quieter. Before they could make a decision, Lily beside them was already feasting. I eat times." Seeing this, everyone had no choice but to sit down. The three little ones looked at each other, looking at each other, not knowing what to do. After eating, they immediately hid in the room when they sensed something was wrong. Early next morning. Suddenly, Kinyujia heard Lily's scream, "Ah! What's going on? Kinyu Kazuma, what did you do?" The single woman who has been single for 10,000 years has broken her guard. You can still vaguely hear the smiling voice of Zhen Zhen Zhen, "It's okay, Lily, it's all the same. Aren't I also unlucky?" This morning, Lily's angry voice echoed throughout the house. "Damn it, isn't this tricking me? So, you've already traveled through Tokyo, why are you playing a love simulation? Have a good time in love." End of the main story of Dating Simulation /. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. We've traveled through Tokyo, who still wants to simulate love? Author, Fei Se Hui-Xiang. Chapter 223. Remarks at the end of the main plot and new book that shakes people up. The main story of We've Traveled Through Tokyo, who still wants to be in a love simulation is over. It's almost the same as Luoluo's expected word count. After all, when I saw that the results were not so good, I had already made up my mind to finish the book normally, so there was no need to be complacent. This book actually has quite a few flaws. For example, a common problem with simulation writing is that there is too much content in the simulation, so that reality cannot be taken into account. This is the most striking feature. After all, when I first started reading the book, I came across the idea of writing a romance novel after reading Ying Huoju's Love After Simulation. When writing novels, what the author often pursues is the feeling of not knowing where the love begins, but going deeper and deeper. Luoluo is the kind of person who is relatively straightforward. When I want to write, I start writing. Here, I would like to thank a few people. The first is I Love Xiaoi, the author of the Life Copy Game. When we started to structure the book, we had a very fierce debate and completely set the tone of the book's heroine. In the words of both of us, it is about the positioning of female characters. The core character structure has been compressed by us. 1. The heroine who is positioned as a daughter, that is, Sister Rina Ishihara. 2. The heroine who is the wife is Mrs. Shiana Kane. 3. The heroine who is positioned as a partner/rival, that is, Miss Amama Yamai. So you see, do these three heroines have the most descriptive content? Excluding these three, the plots that other female characters can have are equivalent to the installation packages of game DLC. If your grades are good, then you should work harder. If your grades are not good, just pretend that nothing happened. Of course, there are also characters among them who will theoretically complete the closed loop in the novel. For example, Lily Garcia has had a huge number of scenes since the first simulation. It was already confirmed when I was writing that this character would definitely not be able to enter the main battlefield from beginning to end. After all, a passerby heroine should always be a passerby. So just like in the plot, for most of the time, poor Lily Garcia has been borderline OB. The main thing is to never step into the battlefield. Of course, there are also many things that I originally had ideas to write, but ended up not writing them at all. For example, female English teachers are easily available in schools. But, Luoluo is a serious person. Unless he is really hungry, he usually won't directly insert such an image of a character into his novel. After all, I'm not writing about wives, whispering. Then there is the teacher Haruna Hayakawa, whose identity is relatively dangerous. Teacher, as a character with unique identity bonuses, actually needs to dig deeper, and it is not impossible to find other things. Of course, in order to avoid the risk of being audited and killed, the teacher must be asked to resign before he can start writing. Luoluo had thought about how to write it before, and had even determined the relevant ideas. Ahem, but, because there were some details, for example, if I thought about updating this book, Luoluo might not have enough to eat, so I only kept the core ones. So the teacher is gone, the female idol is gone, the workplace subordinate is gone, and only a character that was originally planned but will not be written more was added. Well, it's Minamoto Shinzuru. One more thing, about a possible bug that some book friends mentioned before. Regarding the possibility of sensory sharing between Asaba Kazuma and Minamoto Mizuru's, as well as the related multipliers. Ahem, you are right, this actually exists. Theoretically, as long as one movement is carried out, the feeling of Asaba Kazuma will be transmitted to Genmijin, and the amplified feeling of Genmijin will be transmitted to Asaba Kazuma, and then the cycle will be repeated until the human body's endurance limit is reached. This answer is correct. In this situation, the only thing that can make both parties persist is no longer will, but the most basic physical fitness and basic attributes. Yes, this is why I was always given attribute points when I installed the cheat code of Kyunulu, Love is War 2077. Because at the very beginning, I thought about what to do if I encounter such a vicious bug. He even thought about the possibility that Minamoto would be overwhelmed by the endless cycle of happiness. But in the end I still didn't want to write it like this. After all, when each character is created, to Lululo, he is considered half of his family. If the knife had to be used due to plot reasons, such as a shot in front of Shianakane's grave, there would be no way around it. But it would be a pity if it could have been avoided, or if it was treated as a little fun for future episodes, but it was forced to be used. I'll feel bad too. Then I would like to thank all the readers who have subscribed and rewarded this book since it was published. Thank you very much. Finally, let me tell you about the arrangements for this book. The main story is over. But I'm thinking about writing a side story. For example, Rena's painting studio. For example, meet UMI at the school festival night. For example, Mai's Truth or Dare. For example, Puppet Mahizuru's stage play. For example, I, Lily, am definitely not a passerby woman. I'll have to wait and think about whether I want to write it in the end and see if the new book side is busy. Well, finally, let's talk about the new book. Book title, I Will Never Die on the Guillotine Despite My Heinous Sins. Introduction. I, Louis, a migrant worker, died suddenly after working too much overtime, and accidentally traveled to the star continent where gods were rampant and hundreds of races abounded. I became the first emperor in the history of the Unsur Empire to ascend to the throne as a prince with a foreign surname. At this time, the imperial capital was in a sea of laughter, and I made an indelible contribution to this. Because the revolutionary army is marching me to the guillotine. As the trapezoidal sword fell, I ended my mindless life. This was how it should have been, but when I woke up again, I returned to the time before I was crowned a prince, and what came back with me was the diary I carried before my death, which recorded about my future. In this life, I will never die on the guillotine for my heinous sins. I, Olivia, the second princess of the Unsur Empire, was just reborn on the day when I was conferred by the Prince of the Kingdom of Chaos. I witnessed the end of the princess and the collapse of the empire with my own eyes, and decided to give a little bit to the heinous Louis Charles Julius. Look at the color. It is the duty of the princess to restore the glory of the empire. If you are interested, you can read the new book. I came to my mother-in-law's house to draw my number.